always makes me want to dance. Welcome back. This is the Burnout Prevention Network. My name is Casey Pacheco. I am the host and I welcome you in. My beautiful host, Dr. Nyempu Karmuhal. I'm going to invite her in because she's going to tell you about our surprise speakers today.
Welcome, everyone. So today we are speaking on burnout and finance. What
Mm.
does these two have in common? Wait till you hear from Grace, Beverly, and Frankie. These are phenomenal nurses who have something great to share about the relationship between burnout and finance. So thank you. Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy, enjoy. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining our platform today. Now,
Thank you
we
for
are
having us.
really excited to hear about each of you because you're all nurses and you're all in the finance industry, which is not very common. Okay, so we're going to start off. Let's start off with our introductions, and you're all in order.
Oh,
That is so crazy. So, okay, so we have Beverly first. Beverly, give us a little bit of background, a little bit about your nursing background briefly, and then how did you transfer to the financial world?
okay. Well, I've been a nurse for 40 plus years, and I'm a med surg nurse, but I was a nurse educator for about 30 years. And I I retired from nursing for a while, but I didn't like being retired because, as nurses, we just can't sit still at the house and do nothing. So I still wanted to help people. So I looked at some ways to help people. And the first way I did is by starting a Black men's health advocacy and a way to empower Black men to take care of themselves. And in the process of doing that, I thought about myself and how I need to build my financial future. Um, and so a person named Grace reached out to me, and I became a living benefits consultant. So Grace and I were kind of connected in that way. Okay.
Wow. Well, that's perfect because we're going on to Grace. So, Grace, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Casey and Niampu. Thank you, Beverly, as well. Grateful to be here with all of us to have this conversation. Yeah, so my journey has been a nurse for almost 40 years, similar to Beverly. And having gone from conventional medical to also that holistic arena to really understand the impact of financial stress on our health, and all areas of health. And through COVID is really looking for that solution to create that financial safety net for folks so that we can um, begin to even have a shot at recovery, as a global society that is traumatized in so many ways, burnout being a big one. Because systems have not been working for people. And so that stress that then gets transferred over as emotional stress, to the workers themselves. And so as nurses, we know that so intimately, right? For almost 4 decades is really experiencing that in real life. And I'm grateful for this space to share with all of you to perhaps look at some ideas that we can, yeah, share together.
Yes, welcome, welcome. And then we have Frankie, and Frankie's probably like me saying they've been a nurse longer than I've been alive. And I just think it's refreshing to have you here in the picture, Frankie, because you are not in retirement, but you are in finance. You pivoted in the
I
mid
did.
career. So we are excited. Let's hear about you.
All right. Well, thank you, Casey. Yes. So my name's Frankie Moore. I've been a nurse for 9 years now. I was a med surg nurse and then also do sexual assault nursing in the emergency department. I still do that PRN. It was just one thing I wasn't able to give up when I left full-time nursing. But I really loved nursing. The part I loved about it the most was just helping people and being a resource for them, being able to educate them, give them questions or answer their questions and be able to give them answers and solutions. And my financial advisor, who I sought out because I had terrible spending habits. I was spending more than I was making. I should have had so much money in savings, but it was just gone. And I realized that that was such a pattern for nurses. She helped me really understand the relationship between my money, how to automate some savings, how to make sure that I could sleep at night knowing that my family was protected. And I really liked it. And she asked me about doing it myself, and I told her she was crazy. Did not think I could ever pivot from nursing to finances. But after trusting the Lord's plan for me and just giving it to Him, more and more things became very apparent that it was time for a pivot. I myself was extremely burnt out. I got into a managerial role at the spike of COVID, and it was very difficult. And so being able to help people in a different way in their finances, especially nurses, knowing that there's such a big correlation between handling your finances and having burnout is just really exciting for me. And I just love being able to give them the same aha moments and just sense of peace that my advisor gave me.
Excellent, excellent. Now, this is me. I'm a millennial. I hear a cock crowing. Is that you, Grace? Are you in Hawaii with nature out there?
Yeah, so it is here. I am intentionally off grid on 6 acres here. And we do have chickens, we do have organic fruit trees and, greenhouses that we're creating as along with a food forest. So those are some of the ways in terms of for me to contribute back to the community in more sustainable ways. And it's also a massive, burnout healer for me as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing, Grace, because there is a pattern between nursing in a sustainable way, having financial literacy so you can
Yes.
have financial freedom, so you can actually be one with the earth. This is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I think it leads into our first topic, and I just put it out there. Let's have a real discussion. Let's talk about the correlation between burnout and financial literacy. When nurses are working seven days a week, 12-hour shifts, tell me this has nothing to do with poor financial literacy.
Well, the thing that I've experienced, and Bev, you can, certainly, hop in as well. In my own career, right? When we got into nursing, there was no financial education. And Frankie, you can probably agree as well. And that's probably one of the reasons that we're pivoting to do this work. And at Power Up Nursing in Orlando, just a couple months ago, Casey and Niempu, we were all there with Beverly as well. I asked a simple question, right? How many of you nurses in this conference have heard of living benefits and know how to create an income replacement, safety net for yourself when shit hits the fan, not a single hand goes up? That's the common terrain that we get to see. And knowing the pain of that journey as a nurse coming through for almost 4 decades and wanting to create a difference and an impact in terms of these education pieces that Frankie, myself, and Beverly do to shift that generational trajectory, because we understand that financial stress, then translates to physical stress, right? Which then translates to illness. And when we can create that peace of mind with people and create a circular monetary economy with some of these tools that we'll be hopefully be able to share today, it creates a very different outcome on the back end, for sure.
Yeah. And oftentimes nurses do what I call chase the dime. And we work to make money, to make money, to make money. But at the end of the year, we look back and we say, I don't know what happened to the money. I don't know what I did, And so 20 years from that day, we are still chasing the dime, and we have not prepared for our finances or an exit strategy for when we leave nursing also. So we're just steady chasing the dime and getting nowhere because we don't know how.
Yeah. That's one of the most common themes that I see in young nurses. When I was a supervisor and I would see the nurses coming out of nursing school, I did the same thing. We see our paychecks and it's like, oh my gosh, look at this money that I have. I haven't had this before. And we want to reward ourselves. We work a hard profession. We went through hard schooling and we want to buy the things because we can. But then we get into this pattern of we're not managing our money. I don't like the word budget, but we're not planning for it. And so that's when I start seeing nurses picking up 5 12-hour shifts a week. They're working their 3, they're picking up 2 extra.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it to pay a medical bill. They're doing it to pay off a trip that they're going on. And it's just this cyclical cycle because there is no financial education. It's just, okay, here's your paycheck, go out in the world. This is a retirement benefit. Just make sure you contribute to that and you should be good. And there's so many other pieces to it, but I see a very strong correlation in nurses getting burnt out, especially at the bedside, because this cycle of picking up extra shifts to be able to pay for the things they need when we make enough money that we shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty typical. Sorry about that, Niempu, of just working class, right? Mentality. It's linear when it comes to money. Make so much, spend so much, instead of understanding that you can create a circular economy. And if you look at what the elite does and the wealthy people do with their money, it's a whole different strategy. So it's to bring these principles in so that we can begin to scale it down so that everyone can do these things with tools that are available.
I wanted to comment on the fact of financial literacy. And I want to say that I'm jealous of you guys, Beverly, Frankie, and Grace, because you guys have literally crossed over to the other side where you have a wealth of knowledge on financial literacy. But for most nurses, I should say many nurses, not most, but many nurses growing up, that financial literacy may not have been part of our pedigree, and to professional nursing career where now you're handling all this money and or you have all these bills to balance, and if you don't have that background, you're doomed, So is that something that you're seeing when you encounter nurses in your line of work?
Well, nurses have bits and pieces
Mm.
of finances, but they can't see the whole picture.
Yes.
To put it all together. And so basically that's the issue is here you got this here and that there, but nobody taught you how to make it work. And so that's the missing piece is the education of nurses of how to take the money that they're actually making and use that money to build for their future and for their children and leave a family legacy if that's what they want to do.
And Niempu, just 3.5 years ago, I felt the same way as you. Yeah. So coming through nursing, I'm sure Frankie and Beverly would say the same as well. Is you talk to Gracie about money, I would run the other way, rather hand it over to an advisor or a planner to have them take care of it. So taking a very different approach is really how can we educate the nurse to empower nurses with the right information so that they can tap into the right tools, help them connect the dots. Because ultimately, if you ask a simple question, who is going to have the greatest financial interest in our future? It's not the financial advisor. It's not the certified, financial planner. It's going to be you and me. And so when we can give them these gifts of having the right tools, having the right information, then that empowerment piece can happen very quickly because some of these principles are very simple. Yeah. We all get these. You just have to have the right tap in, the right access, the right guide, so to speak. So Frankie, I call myself the financial Sherpa these days because to climb that Mount Everest, right, you need to have someone that you can trust to walk that with you and to take you by the hand. And as nurses, as everybody else out there that I can see in the financial landscape, that's the piece that's lacking.
If I could interject, even talking about yourself as a Sherpa or as a guide, whenever anybody talks about financial anything, I don't know if you've seen on YouTube, but you have all these scammers to the bottom, which really, it happens in real life too, where I think sometimes people want to be financially literate, but sometimes they don't seek out because there's so many scammers. They don't even know how to tell someone who is a legit professional from someone who is just trying to make a quick buck.
So simple question to ask themselves, right? How is this person paid?
Mm.
Okay. How is this person paid? If they're paid on something called asset under management, their incentive is going to be to keep your monies in the market. So you look at companies like BlackRock. What is their incentive? Follow the money, and you'll always be able to find the answer. Okay.
Mm.
And I think that's basic to doing our due diligence and looking at a company's finances, right? We all know if you're not financially strong, you won't be able to keep your promises. So I only work with A+ rated companies within the industry. If a client can qualify for those kinds of tools, yeah. And do I talk about the number one a lot? Of course, because the Rolls Royce of the industry is going to treat you very differently than the Pinto of the industry. Obviously, I'm dating myself with that kind of languaging. But it does make a difference. And then the other thing is, what is their payout history? These are things that you can research into, and these are things that I love to teach. And how do the writers actually work in terms of the intricacies of all the languages behind all these different policies? And can we do like multiple comparisons across different companies to look at the end result in 20, 30 years? Because numbers don't lie, right? I come from research background, and so you can tell, okay, if in 30 years I get B amount versus A amount, it's pretty telling in terms of which product to choose for yourself, right? And what are the guarantees? How are they illustrating? So having a guide to be able to take you through all those pieces is powerful in a sense that now you're informed. And that's all it is, right? As nurses, we're great at synthesizing very complex information and being able to then now, convey it in a very simple nugget to our clients and just be the way showers. Mm-hmm.
I like that. Way showers. We definitely need.
Way showers.
Yeah.
So now it's time for some juicy content. Tell us some tips and tricks that you share with nurses or other people that you advise that, it may be simple, but people don't know or they don't look into because it might be just plain boring, but it actually will save them a lot of money and stress in the long run. Share with us.
So one of the things that I love to talk about, right, is through an illustration of a product, whether it be annuities or life insurance. And the reason that I love life insurance is because the more progressive companies out there today are offering something called living benefits that I love to educate on and advocate for. And in North America, specifically in the United States, right, the wealthy people, if you have 10, 20 million sitting in the bank, that's how you can use that money to mitigate a medical crisis, right? The people who are on government benefits, they don't have to worry about that medical piece, but it's the working people. What do you do? And if 60% of the bankruptcies, 40% of the foreclosures happen in the United States when someone gets sick, and we know that that puts a lot of financial stress and burden. And Beverly, you can talk about your story, obviously, with how your husband going through cancer, bills mounting and all that good stuff. To have that financial education so that you can tap into these living benefits as a safety net. That's one of the biggest necessity, in my humble opinion, as a nurse coming from, seeing so many of these GoFundMes. Yeah, in our careers. And one of the biggest solutions out there is available, except that 98% of the people have never heard of it, including, nurses at that conference that I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Like Grace says that my big thing is the living benefits, because my husband had cancer and he had never been ill. So I know what it feels like to start getting all of those bills, medical bills, to pay for services. But at the time that he had the cancer, well, prior to him getting cancer, and back in the day, there was no such a thing as living benefits. So you had all these little policies, like a cancer policy, a heart policy, long-term care, and all this kind of stuff. So I happened to get a cancer policy, and I paid that thing for 16 years, and my husband got cancer. And so when he got cancer, what it did for us was allowed us to pay all those medical bills so that at the end, I wasn't saddled with mountains of bills. Also, one of the things that happened to us was that we had a house note that we had made a balloon payment on to pay it off early. And when we refinanced it, and I'd forgotten completely about it, but right in the middle of the cancer, in this cancer therapy, here it comes. So it allowed us to be able to keep our house, but what it did not allow, and this is what I like about living benefits, is the fact that my husband did pass. So when he passed, I had no protection for myself because that policy only paid for cancer. It did not have a benefit that covered me. And that's why I like living benefits, because the living benefits allow you to accelerate your death benefits so that you can use them when you need them, but you don't have to use all the money. You can keep some of that money for your own self, for your retirement. And that's what got me with this living benefits is once my husband died, I went planning to have his Social Security as part of our retirement. So that was gone. So this living benefits allowed me to turn on a guaranteed income when I retire. And now I have my two sources of income that I was planning on. I have other things, but that was my plan, my plan going. And
yeah, really powerful.
So I was going to say, if I may interject just a little bit. So about 10 years ago, I would have no clue what you guys are talking about right now. And I'm just being very transparent that when you get, financially, like you could get really excited about all of these things because it saves you so much money. But when you're not in this world and you do not talk finance, it sounds like a different language. And I'm just thinking of young nurses. Like there was an article, I think Rebecca posted of a 16-year-old that graduated as a registered nurse. And I'm like, I remember graduating at 21, feeling like a little girl. And now you're asking me about 401k. You're asking me about all these big decisions, financial decisions. I don't know what you're talking about. Pick whatever you want, right? So how do you bridge that? I know, Frankie, you talk a lot with younger people. How do you approach that with young nurses, especially when they're making like a lot of money doing travel nursing? They're not working one place to have a 401k to travel, to pass along, or you have insurance benefits with one hospital, but then you start working another one and you're a serial entrepreneur and you have all these things going on. How does that work? What do you say?
Yeah, so a lot of my conversations with younger nurses really are based around like, how can I meet with you to provide you education? Like, what would be a valuable use of your time? I found that, talking product specific, like you said, it's a foreign language. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about, that it doesn't make sense. I don't care. Like just all the things that, whatever answers you might get. I don't care right now. Like I'm nowhere near retirement, or I don't care right now, I'm young and healthy, are responses that I would get a lot. And so it was figuring out, we talked about the how, but like the why. Why does it matter to you? And so one of the biggest things I talk with my nurses about is, would it be a good use of your time if I could explain your work benefits to you to just help you understand what they mean? Because I'll say, until I met with my advisor, I didn't know what my long-term disability benefit was at work. I assumed it covered my whole income. Like I had no idea.
Right.
I assumed, my life insurance was enough. I thought contributing to my 403b was enough. I didn't realize we also had a Roth option, and like that makes so much sense. So just being able to sit down with them and say, would this be a valuable use of time if I could educate you on what your benefits actually do, what they mean? And then after I'm able to explain that to them in a way that makes sense, I can talk to them about how there's different pieces and things that can fit into, maximize those, supplement them. But it's showing them why it matters to them. But in order to do that, you have to understand, who they are and what's important to them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm agree with that. And I'm going to say this. When I did my plan for us was based on us being healthy. But my plan did not consider the fact
Yes.
that something would happen to one of us. So that's the point we got to get across to people, is that your plan has to be for more than if you stay healthy, because we know that, and we're nurses, and I don't know why we don't make that connection, that we may not stay healthy all our life. So what's your backup plan? And fortunately, I didn't have a really good backup plan that would work for me. My plan was based on us being healthy. And so that's a point that we almost must talk to nurses about, because a lot of nurses burn out because we work so many long hours.
Yes.
And we've been doing it for years and years and years. We had some tolls on our body from lifting and pulling and things like that. So by the time we get to our 50s, many nurses are now experiencing some type of physical ailments that hamper our ability to work. So we must have an exit plan that's based on the fact that we may need to exit this time before we get 67, 70, or whatever it's going to be by the time you all get to retirement. The age for Social Security might be 70 years of age. So what's your exit plan? That's a big thing to talk about with nurses. And we probably never, ever thought about when you're 20, you don't think about that, because that's 40, 50 years from now.
Right.
I got more important things to think about, but no, you don't.
Yeah.
I like the idea of exit plan, and truly, that is so. I don't know truly how to put that in words. It is like the end of the road, even though it may be far away, but it's something that we should think about now. At one of the events that Casey and I went to in Fort Lauderdale, there was a business exchange, Florida business exchange, and they teach you how to look at your business in a longer run. If you are going to sell your business, how much would it be worth? Would it be sellable? Would it be, marketable? So nurses, truly, if we were thinking of our career like in that path, am I going to be marketable in 30 years from now? I truly believe that we make a better decision in our financial planning, and also it will make a better decision on advancing our careers. But sometimes too, the hold up on that can be all the bills we have to pay, including financial aid. I don't know about you guys, but
Sure.
it can be a major hamper in us in our decisions.
As nurses, we're taught more about altruism than about taking care of ourselves. And so, but one of my deans used to say, altruism don't pay the bills. And it's true. You have to have a way to pay for yourself and admit to take care of yourself in the long run. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being caring. That is a hallmark of a nurse. And for people who truly love nursing, that's the part of you that is the nurse, is that caring part. But you also got to care enough about yourself. And sometimes we're not taught to care for ourselves. That's the missing piece in the curriculum. The curriculum is all about caring for others. Just one course about professionalism, but still it does not tell us that we are our own, that this is a business to move us to a model of business, to integrate that business in and where we fit in a business model so that we can see ourselves for the long term.
And the input, just to emphasize that exit strategy is for any time, right? Because things can happen, accidents can take someone out of the game. So it's really, like Bev says, that backup plan, and like Frankie says, showing alternatives in terms of how to create that safety net so that people can have those in place.
Yeah. And I saw the question on the screen, and it was about burnout and like how to avoid double overtime and things like that. And that ties into poor financial investments and its role in burnout, because what I see happen so often in younger nurses, and I can say even myself, I don't know if it's a millennial thing, a Gen Z, whatever that is, but we are so focused on the today. We're not thinking about down the road. And so we're making these impulse decisions. You know, we're booking a vacation. We're going to go pay $2,700 to see Taylor Swift. I love Taylor Swift, but not financial investment, because now, again, we're having to pick up these extra shifts to pay off those debts. And so one of the best strategies you can implement is give yourself money to spend each month. Like, give yourself an amount that you can spend on you. That was one of the most impactful things that my advisors told me, was set aside an amount that you can spend on yourself, an amount that goes towards your financial goals, and an amount that goes towards fixed expenses. And it's something so simple, but letting myself be okay with spending money on myself and knowing like, okay, I've got, $1,000 a month that's just for me, and this is just for finances, was such a game changer in my financial plan, because I knew how much I could spend, and therefore I wasn't overspending, and therefore I wasn't picking up extra shifts, and therefore I was not getting as burnt out in that role. Leadership burnout was different, but my bedside burnout, it was definitely contributed to poor spending habits.
Yeah, and then just to tag along that, Frankie, I don't know if you guys ever read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. One simple principle, that we can all use is always pay ourselves first. Always pay ourselves first, in a sense of, we're so concerned about paying everybody else, right? All the bills and stuff like that. We prioritize that. How much are we saving towards our own financial well-being, right? In tools that can really help us multiply, and in tax advantage vehicles that we can learn about. So these things are not complicated. It's just that we are averse to them because we have a linear way of thinking about money: make money, spend money, versus how do I reallocate money into vehicles that now can help me make every single dollar turn into employee for me for the rest of my life, so that it grows for me, because time creates compounding. Yeah. So just simple stuff. Rule of 72, pay yourself first, stuff like that.
My dad said something to me a couple of last year, and we were talking about money and how families get locked into poverty. Okay. And he says that, and as Black people from slavery, and once we come out of slavery, we were taught to work and to make money, but we were never taught how to save that money or how to make that. So in a family, somebody in that family has to make that leap.
Yes.
And decide that they're going to figure out how to save money and make money, and not just work and spend that money. And so if that never happens in your family, then you're going to be into that cycle of working and spending, buying more, working, until somebody decides that we're going to do different.
Right. Changing that paradigm. Yeah, for sure. Then shift all the behaviors. It's how we frame something, isn't it? Ultimately.
Yeah. We have to change our thinking. We have to change, and then we have to take action, because thinking by itself won't save you a dime.
True.
That's true. Taking the right action. Yeah.
But you have to do it. And somebody has to decide that I'm going to do it. I remember when I first started thinking about finances, and I'm finna date myself, there used to be a magazine called Kiplinger's Report. And I wanted to learn a little bit about finances. So I started reading it back in the day. And I did learn some stuff, but then I got caught up into children and life and stuff, and I stopped reading about it. So, but what I read about it gave me some bits and pieces, but I didn't stay focused on it enough to really get a real rounded education about it. And even when I had my 401k, I didn't know what to do with that.
That's true.
Even the person who at my workplace that I got the 401k through that company, they just says, well, how you want to disperse it? I was like, how do I know? you know,
Yeah.
how do I know how to disperse
Mhm.
it? And never came back to me to help me each year learn what to do. And that's an important thing, is that whoever you go to, that they review your policies or your plan on a yearly basis to see if what changes you
Mhm.
need to make and if you're on track for your
Yeah.
goals.
Yes.
That's
So
true.
I
key.
love
Follow
that.
up. We
Yeah,
need to
so key.
follow up. I learned a lot about investment from my fellow nurses in the unit. I work night
Mhm.
shift.
Mhm.
We're just having conversation and say, "Hey, did you diversify your contributions because the market is about to crash?" I'm like, "Crash? Yeah, COVID is coming and things are changing."
Hmm.
So as they do it, and we all just follow on, so we learn a lot from our colleagues. When they learn
Mhm.
something, they pass it on. But Beverly, you're right. Sometimes our investors are not following up. They're quick to sell to you, and that's it. They Once you sign that those
Mhm.
dotted lines, they're gone, and you're sitting there. I do
Money.
have a 401k, but it is not being diversified. There's nothing
Mhm.
happening to it, and when the market comes and it wipes it off, you're like, "What happened? How much got
Mhm. Mhm.
wiped off?" And
Mhm.
that education needs to be as
Yeah.
we do our annual physicals,
I
for
Mhm.
love
our
it.
health,
Exactly.
we should do
Exactly.
that for our finances as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
Your
this is
plan
an
needs to
area
change with your life.
we cannot self-educate ourselves we can only do it to a certain extent because we don't have the knowledge and experience to understand that language. So we need help with that. And if your insurance agent or your planner or whoever never comes back to you and to find out what's going on in your life, you're sunk.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just sunk, you know. And most people start dropping their policies. I don't see the need for it, and things like
Mhm.
that,
Right.
because
Mhm.
they did not have that person to feed them the information that they need to find out why,
Yeah.
what, and where you gonna
Yeah.
be at a certain age. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. And just two pieces around that investment piece. One of the best things I've heard is, so you talked about like, oh, the market's going to crash. We got to pull, we got to change, we got to shift. And that is the point of a financial advisor, to help you not make those impulsive decisions. Because yes, the market's going to go down, but it's going to go back up. And you're going to want your money when it goes back up. And they're able to make more of a better judgment call on if it fits for you to pull or not. They're going to help talk you off that ledge so that you're not going like this and pulling it in and out and losing money. They help you actually make money. So that's one great thing. And then I saw earlier there was a question, and it was like one of the, mistakes that we see nurses make. And it's again around investing, and it's investing in the stock market while you still have high interest credit card debt. And so again, just having an advisor that you're meeting with yearly, helping you understand why that doesn't make sense. A credit card has a 28% interest rate. Yeah, you can make money in the stock market, but that's a 28% interest rate. But just
Mhm.
having that second set of eyes to do the full comprehensive plan. We're not just looking at life insurance. We're not just looking at investments. We're not just looking at these living benefits. We're looking at you as a person, your goal, what you want to accomplish. And I think that's been one of the biggest value adds from nurses when they meet with me and meet with, I'm sure with Grace and Beverly as well, is that, oh, like you can pull everything together and make it make sense for me. And you can help me make sure that I'm making decisions around my finances that really make sense to my plan. And that as my life changes, my plan's going to change with it.
Yeah, and then just one simple suggestion also, for me as I'm doing research within the industry, is finding someone to work with that is not captive is also very important. Someone who's independent, because then they'll be able to give you kind of the full scope in terms of, okay, what's out there in the industry? Can I look at some alternatives with you? Can you help me connect these dots? In terms of looking over, like I mentioned, right? How are these companies paying out? And what are the return on investments in terms of these things? If I am risk averse or if I'm willing to take some risk, what are those alternatives, right? So I think that's an important point too, to be able to find someone who's independent. Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I believe some.
Otherwise, they're limited to options that they can suggest within just one single company if they're captive. Yeah.
Yeah, I will touch on, like, thankfully with who I am with, we're able to broker out to different companies, which is helpful because not your products are not always the right product for your client.
That's true. So having that capability to do that is powerful. And then to also have that comprehensive view of what someone's goals and needs are that they need protection with, or they would like to plan for down the line, and maybe even suggest some ideas that they haven't thought of before. Yeah. To cover the whole scope of someone's life, because it's many, many pieces, like Bev said earlier.
And sometimes people are reluctant to seek help in this area. Because, well, number one, they may not know of anyone that's a financial advisor or whatever, and they just don't, and they are afraid to put their trust in that, because, and that fear comes from probably from your parents or your grandparents with the stock market crashing in what, 1930? In the 1930s. So people still have this fear, because my dad still talking about, I'm going to put my money in a can and bury it in the yard. I was like, oh my God. you know. But even if you put it in your bank, you're only getting 2% interest in your savings, in a savings account. So that's not going to grow you much over any number of years. You need somebody to explain and explain what compounding interest means, because people have no idea what compounding interest means, or have ever heard of it, except maybe in high school in free enterprise class, that one class you had to take. That's it.
Yeah.
So on that note, we have had such a wonderful conversation here. I mean, like free flow, very organic, and the strategies that, I mean, simple strategies but very useful that you guys have brought here, that nurses can actually grab on those and say, hey, I never knew that, but if nurses are speaking to me, this is valuable. This is way valuable than some financial investor who has no clue about nurses day-to-day
It's
struggles.
true.
So, what are some last words you would give either a young nurse, a nurse who is well seasoned in his or her job, and or a nurse who is exiting? What are some last words you would
Yeah,
pass on?
just begin to be open to learn about these things, right? And to take the initiative, and don't put it in somebody else's hands, because ultimately you have the best interest of your financial future. Yeah.
One of the things we teach people is that you can never start early with discharge planning. So it applies to us
That's
too.
true.
I love that.
I love that.
Early getting your plans for your finances together. So it's the same thing, you know. Okay.
Yeah, I would just encourage nurses, no matter what age you are, if you're exiting, if you're just getting started, if you're loving your career, just be open. Like Grace said, be
Yes.
open to seeking out help, asking people, and also be okay interviewing people that you meet with for financial planning.
Exactly.
If they don't fit you, it's okay to say no and find someone that does fit you. But just be open to letting someone else potentially show you that there is a better way. Not that your way is wrong, but that they can get you to where you want to go more strategically in a safer way that protects you and also build your money like you want it to build.
You guys are super nurses. I've heard start your exit plan, which is discharge planning automation. You know, we do that with our patients. We're admitting them, but discharge planning is also incorporated into it. I've heard don't give your health to someone else to manage it. So don't
Yeah.
give your entire finances for someone else to be the total steward of it. And I I've learned so much today, more than before in this conversation. So I want to thank you all very much. Casey and I do this, you know, uh, this talk show to bring light to so much more than we can have those conversations in our break rooms. So, and all have the conversation on the cell phone, because this is live. This is going to be broadcast to so many nurses, and we even capture nurses who are in other countries, and they're like, "Hey, this is super cool." So thank you so much, guys, for your time. Thank you for giving us some, words of wisdom in the financial arena, so that we can prevent burnout. Our main focus here is to target all
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
aspects of burnout and see if we can weed them out one at a time. So thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yeah,
And
thank you for the work that you guys do as well.
Yes,
Very
thank
Thank
grateful
you
you.
for you guys.
for having
It
us.
was an honor to be here.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank
Mhm.
Bye bye.
we love it. Thank you so much. Casey? Yeah, we are. So, ladies, we did go over our time, but it has been a lovely conversation. I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much, Niapu and
Bye.
Casey.
Have a good day.
All right.
Frankie, aloha.
You
Bye, Bev.
have a blessed day. Bye.